Okay, so the first example was, or the first plant that they talked about was the acacia tree, and how as herbivores like giraffes and zebras and things like that, they start to graze or eat the leaves of the acacia tree. The acacia tree starts to release a hormone into the air, which then signals other branches on that tree and other trees nearby to produce a chemical that makes it taste bitter. And that's a really good example of something called coevolution, which we'll study next year. Um, Looking at how species can evolve because of the relationship they have with other species. So in response to the acacia tree becoming more bitter, then the animals that graze on those trees basically learn through evolution to only graze on those trees for short periods of time, because if you graze too long, then you start to eat leaves that are toxic. Okay, plants may look like they're immobile because they are rooted, but like you saw in that video, all of that was 100% real. It was just called something called time-lapse photography, when you set up a camera to record over the period of like 8 hours and you speed that up to like, 1 or 2 minutes. So plant movements are too slow. I should say most plant movements are too slow for us to notice, but they do move in response to several environmental stimuli. We're going to look at two types of movements. The first group are called tropisms. These are slow movements. And then we have nastic movements, which are quicker. But I'm going to start with tropisms. Tropisms are response either toward or away from a stimulus. If the plant moves towards the stimulus, that's called a positive tropism. Away is negative tropism. And each tropism is named for the kind of stimulus. So the first one we want to look at is phototropism. Obviously, photo meaning light. If any of you have plants at home, sometimes you notice that they start to bend maybe towards the window. Excuse me, they start to bend towards the window because that's where the light, ooh, that's where the light starts to come in. That is phototropism. It's called oh my God, it's called positive phototropism. Now, how the plant manages to move, the light causes the hormone auxin to move to the shaded side of the root. So let me exhibit my extreme, wonderful drawing skills here. Okay, and then we've got, let's say the sun is on that side. Okay, so this is the light side and this is the shade side. So auxins are going to move to the shaded side of the root, of the shoot, and that is going to cause the cells on this side to elongate. If these cells elongate, it's going to push the plant towards the sun. So the result is the shoot grows towards the light. Okay, where is my cursor? There it is. Okay. So this is an example of positive phototropism, the plant moving towards the light as a result of auxin on the shade side of the plant. Oops. Sometimes light causes the production of a growth inhibitor on the lighted side, which would have the same effect. It would basically have on the, if I go back, yeah. If you have a growth inhibitor on this side, it means this side's still going to grow, but this side won't, and the result is still pushing the plant towards the sun. Here's again, time-lapse photography showing how plants move from one side to the other over the course of the day. And that's a result of auxins moving to different sides of the stems. Okay.
Growth in plants reflects the way in which they interact with the environment. If we place a strong light at one side of this fuchsia plant, the plant will grow towards it. This is called a phototrophic response. But what controls such a response? If the tip of the plant is protected from the
This is
light
cool.
using a small cap, the plant will continue to grow upward. This suggests that there is something at the tip of the plant that controls the direction of growth.
Probably the apical
If we place this
meristem.
fuchsia plant on its side, it quickly recovers its orientation and grows upward.
This is an example of something called gravitropism that I've mentioned, that roots automatically grow down in positive gravitropism and shoots automatically grow up in negative gravitropism. I was able to do this last year with grade 12 when they were in your grade, grade 11, that the chili plants that they started growing, we would actually like tip them on their side, and you can see that they actually, yeah, they start to grow in 90-degree angles. Unfortunately, because of COVID, yeah. But I mean, you guys can do this at home if you have any plants, just like turn one on its side, wait maybe like 3-4 days, and see what happens. The stem starts to change direction.
But is the plant responding to light or to gravity?
There, that's
These
positive
pea seeds are
gravitropism.
germinating in the
That's
dark,
also the radical
yet
you
the
see
roots are
coming out.
growing down and the shoots are growing up.
So no matter where the seed landed, so this one's coming out from the top, that one's coming out from the top, this one from the bottom, all of them grow down.
The roots and shoots must be responding to gravity, but in different
There's
ways.
the
The roots are
hypocotyl
said to be
coming out. See that nice
positively geotropic,
curved hook
and the
there?
shoots negatively geotropic. It is probable that all of these growth responses are due in some part to the auxin indole acetic acid, or IAA. One theory states that a light-sensing mechanism in the tip of the fuchsia plant promotes the active transport of IAM molecules to the shaded part of the stem. This action produces cell growth and elongation in this area. The result is a curvature which orientates the plant towards the light. A gravity-sensing mechanism in the shoot tip triggers a similar migration of IAA molecules, producing growth in the stem which orientates the plant from a horizontal position back to a vertical position. The growth substance IAA also appears to have a role in maintaining apical dominance.
So in this example, now you can see in the middle, they've cut the tip. So the apical meristem was here. And once the apical meristem is cut, then you get the lateral buds that start to grow. So now you see growth of lateral buds.
Maintaining apical dominance. By removing the growing tip, which controls auxin distribution and therefore apical dominance, lateral buds can grow. An important hormone in deciduous plants is abscisic acid, which controls leaf fall, thereby protecting the plant from adverse seasonal conditions.
Okay. Negative phototropism you see in vines, because vines have to grow on solid objects, and there's not really going to be many solid objects like in broad daylight. So they usually look for more shaded areas, which indicates that there is something there that they can grab onto. So they'll grow away from the light toward the wool. Now there's something called solar tracking. It's also called heliotropism. Helio meaning sun. You can see this especially in sunflowers as they follow the sun's movement throughout the day. This is to maximize the amount of light for photosynthesis. It's not actually a tropism, but it is something similar, even though we classify it as a heliotropism. One of my favorites is thigmotropism, thigmo meaning touch. Yeah. Okay. Why do you not want to write in that specific area? Okay, whatever, touch. So this is especially useful for vines again, but also any plant that has tendrils. If you remember, tendrils are a specialized leaf that kind of grow and coil around. They usually are for climbing plants. I used to have a problem outside of my driveway. I've got bushes out there that used to be on the right-hand side next to the water drain. And I'm pretty sure there's like a wild cucumber plant that's like in the actual drain, and it's quite a viney type of plant. And so it would start to form tendrils around my bush and kind of start to strangle my bush. And it was like really annoying to have to clean that all the time. So I moved all the plants to the left side of the driveway. But you'll always see them form a coil, the tendrils coiled, so that when the wind blows, the coil can stretch of the tendril so it doesn't break. Now, climbing is an advantage because they can climb on top of objects to access more light. It is thought that thigmotropisms are the action of ethylene and a type of type of auxin. So you'll often see tendrils when they're filmed during time lapse, that they grow in a kind of a 360-degree method so that they can try to find something to grab onto. And we have gravitropism. This is obviously response to gravity. Roots show positive gravitropism and stems show negative gravitropism. Remember, they if they grow towards the stimulus, it's positive. Away from the stimulus, it's negative. So this is an example of gravitropism. They basically laid the plant on its side and it uprights itself. This just like phototropism is regulated by auxins. And similarly, the way that phototropism works, when you put it on its side, the auxins gather on the bottom and cause the plant to elongate to an upright position. The concentration stimulates cell elongation on the lower side of the stem, which makes the plant grow upwards. And again, they can have growth inhibitors on the other side, which makes the root grow down. And the last tropism is chemotropism, obviously a response to a chemical. An example, the pollen tube after the flower is pollinated. So when the pollen lands on the stigma, you might think, well, how does the pollen tube know where to grow, right? Is it up? Is it down? Is it sideways? How does it know? Because the ovule releases a chemical and the pollen tube grows towards that chemical. And that's how the pollen tube, I say knows, but it's not like it has a brain and thinks about it, but it grows in the direction of the chemical that's being released by the ovule. And the last thing for today are nastic movements. These are much cooler because we can actually see them happening. So two distinguishing characteristics between nastic movements and tropisms. Tropisms are slow. You can't see them with the naked eye. Nastic movements, you can actually see them happening in real time. Two, tropisms are either a response towards or away from a stimulus. Nastic movements are independent of the direction of the stimulus. Nastic movements, because they occur much quicker, they are not the results of hormones, but a result of changes in water pressure against the cell wall, which is called Turker pressure, something we studied last year.
Note the Venus flytrap.
Okay, obviously we have the Venus flytrap. We know what's going to happen here, but this is an example. Again, thigmo meaning touch. Hey, I got to write my H this time. Is a thigmonastic movement. So nastic meaning a quick movement, thigmo touch.
Note the Venus flytrap. Did you ever imagine that a plant could devour such large creatures?
Right. So with the Venus flytrap, I don't know if you've ever seen one in real life. I had really small ones like several years ago I got from my neighbor, but they all died. But they're quite interesting because inside along, I guess like the inside of their mouth, kind of, they got like these little hairs. And if you touch one hair, it's not going to do anything. Because obviously that might just be the wind or something, or like a leaf falls on it. It's not going to snap shut, but it has to be several hairs that are triggered in a short time, or if you have one hair that keeps getting triggered over and over again, then that releases the you basically have like a rush of potassium that leaves the cell, which means that water leaves the cells and it makes the two leaves snap shut together. Okay. So again, it's caused by a rapid loss of turgor pressure in certain cells. So similarly how stomata open and close through the action of guard cells. So physical stimulation can cause potassium to be pumped out of the cells at the base of the leaflets and petioles, and water is going to move out by osmosis. As the cells shrink, the leaves move, and that makes them slap shut. This is one of my favorite plants. I really want to get my hands on one of these. Uh-oh. My computer's like, danger, Will Robinson. I've got that little wheel of color circle thing. No. Gonna work? Yeah. Okay, the only thing that you hear is going to hear music here. One thing I want you to pay attention to is how it responds exactly to touch. So he touches it on the left side and only the left leaflets start to close. But when he touches it on the right, then that also starts to close. This one, again, depending on where he touches it, if he touches it like at the base of here, then all of those leaves close. But here, you can actually see the wave start to occur. Now. Even with a marker, so it doesn't even have to be like a warm human hand. It can just be anything really. So only the parts of the plants that are directly touched are going to respond. So here he touched the base of those compound leaves. So all of those compound leaves not fail, but fold. But the rest of the plant doesn't respond. And he'll show you how the turgor pressure is reapplied. I think they go in reverse. Yeah, there we go. So time lapse is 128 times normal speed here. I'll show you a clock to show you how fast it is. So about 15 minutes, I guess. One of the cool, yeah, it's even, that was the next thing. It's even sensitive to heat, so he takes a lighter. So I suppose you could call that a thermonastic movement because it's sensitive to heat as well. Again, with like how it causes kind of a wave of reaction. Anyway, I think that was pretty cool. So the folding of the leaves is thought to discourage insect feeding. So if there's insects around and it actually accidentally gets touched, if it folds and kind of, what do you call that? Shoot, I don't know the word. It's not faint, but how it just kind of goes limp, then it looks like not appetizing for herbivores. It can also help prevent water loss. And then we have nyctinastic movements. These are response to a daily cycle of light and dark. It involves some of the same osmotic mechanisms as the thigmonastic movements, but the changes in turgor pressure are more gradual. So for an example, the prayer plant, the leaf blades are vertical at night, resembling praying hands, but during the day, they are horizontal. So it's more of a reaction between day and night. Okay.